Scientifically speaking, we're sharing the view. From labs to clinics, breakthrough shining through. With minds that inspire and stories to unfold. Scientifically speaking, the future's being told.
Welcome to Scientifically Speaking with Christine on Oz Arab Media, where we explore the science behind social change, innovation, and the people shaping our future. Today's episode dives into the classroom, but not the traditional one. We're exploring tutoring as transformation, not just as academic support, but as an inclusive, community-first model that meets students where they are and helps them become who they're meant to be. Joining me today is Kieren Beard, the founder of Focus Learning, which is a thriving tutoring centre in southwest Sydney that supports K-12 students through personalised, one-on-one sessions in English and maths. What makes this business unique is not just what's being taught, but how, with equity, neurodiversity support, and educational leadership at the centre. Kieren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I know you built such a wonderful community, so I'm grateful to be able to share our story.
Thank you, of course, and you are part of that community, and we'll dig into the details soon. Awesome. Tell me what inspired you to launch in Focus Learning.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Christine. I started this as a sort of a side hustle for money, extra money.
Interesting.
My wife and I were getting married, we're looking to buy a home, so it was just an opportunity to get that little bit of a head start, but through the grace of God, through hard work, we grew organically and people started referring myself to their friends and to their cousins, and it just grew so organically. We thought there was an opportunity to grow this into something. So we saw that grow during COVID, where a lot of parents needed that extra bit of help.
Right? Not everyone can teach.
No, that's right. Yeah, and we found a lot of students fell behind during that time as well because they didn't have that interaction at school. So
amazing.
That saw one of the most unexpected rises there, and we were able to secure an office.
Lovely. Yeah. Oh, well, you did secure an office and you did choose to open your business in, if I can say, low socioeconomic area.
Yeah.
So what were the challenges that came along with this decision, and what were the unexpected rewards, if I can say?
Yeah, absolutely. Having also worked as a teacher in the area, I understand the community. It's a wonderful community. It's so diverse, and I think that in this low socioeconomic area, I still think that everyone values education, which is awesome. What we've found is that, like with the rest of Sydney, everyone is struggling economically. It's quite expensive with inflation, and it's quite tough. People deciding whether to buy their groceries, to invest in education or sport.
True.
But what we found is education is paramount, and that's no different in this community. With a lot of our clients, I suppose, from non-English speaking backgrounds, they really want to invest in their kids' education.
Amazing. Many people hear the word tutoring and go like, no, it's a test prep, or it's something that I'm going to sit for hours, do nothing fun. But how are you shifting that narrative to something more inclusive and holistic?
Yeah, I'll even admit I didn't like tutoring when I was younger.
Who did?
Yes, right. I'd much rather go play sport or play at the park with my friends.
True.
But I did see the benefits when my dad signed me up for that one-on-one tutoring when I was towards the end of my high school, where I saw that explicit instruction and that guidance that I could get from that tutor. So that was the foundation for the inspiration for the business, where I thought I saw the benefits myself.
Right.
And I could also do the same thing to the next generation of kids.
Lovely. In your sessions, you try to embed the 5 C's.
Yes.
And those who don't know what the 5 C's are, they're collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and character.
Yeah.
And you put this in each and every session.
Yeah.
What does that look like in practice?
It's a very busy session, isn't it?
5 points before we even start.
I know. I think what I've found is a lot of students, and many teachers will recognise, is every student learns differently.
True.
And so we try and tap into different elements. So there might be some lessons that we might not tap into the critical thinking as much because the student is more of a creative thinker. And we try and tap into that skill and get them engaged in learning. If they're engaged in their learning, they'll enjoy it more. So we'll see the reward from that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, personalised instructions is was found that it's important and it's doing if it's effective, if I can say. How did the personalized instruction, activate different parts of the brain when doing it one-on-one compared when you're doing it in a group?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll address as a teacher, teaching in the classroom, you're not going to get to everyone. There are some students that like to hide in the corner because they're a bit shy or they're just not engaged, or there's some students that are a little bit louder and want to distract to be funny or just a little bit more engaged themselves. So with the one-on-one, you get that space and a safe space to be able to try things out.
Right.
We even have students at the moment doing creative writing and they're a bit scared to share their ideas with the classroom. But in this safe space of one-on-one, I'm like, no, tell me. I'd much rather an idea than no idea, and then we can build from there. So having that safe space and tapping into not only the skills that they're engaged with and passionate about, but to be able to feel safe when they're learning, I think that's so important.
That's great. And I can see there's a lot of high impact teaching strategies happening in there. So how do you use these strategies, like maybe clear instruction and feedback, to reach the student from their level up?
Yeah, absolutely. We implement the clear, explicit instruction and structures. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Yes. But I know in education right now there's an emphasis on explicit instruction, and what that just means is being very clear about what you expect and what you want to see. So we employ a lot of the structures in writing, for instance, when they write essays. That spans across all students. So it doesn't matter whether they're a student that needs explicit help or whether they're a very high-ranking student, these same structures apply to them.
Okay.
And it's a matter of then honing in on their skills to, for lack of a better word, zhuzh it up a little bit.
Nice.
And, put their own touch on their work.
Yes.
So we're just seeing that being able to be differentiated amongst the different learners.
Yes. Wow. A lot of work happens in a session, doesn't it?
That's right.
Oh, what role do you think one-on-one plays in unlocking students' potential, especially those who might not really thrive in a traditional classroom?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually a really good question. I wanted to bring it back to the character element of those 5 C's, because we have found that students who showcase character, which is the right mindset for learning, tend to perform better. So it's not just relying on talent, it's tapping into their character.
Right.
So with the one-on-one learning and those explicit instructions, we also try and get the students to set goals and have the right mindset to know where they are and where they want to be in their learning. And we get them to also be accountable for that journey as well as us. So that's something that we try and do, because then we build those authentic relationships with those students and see the growth.
Of course. And I mean, it helps them later in the future, because a lot of people that are out of schools that maybe are lost in their paths, and maybe if they did this one-on-one kind of sessions would have been better for them.
That's right.
Amazing. Kieren, if you don't mind me asking, you being as a teacher, teaching in a school, AI has been a big thing in education at the moment. So I'd like to know your thoughts on emerging tools like ChatGPT and maybe other apps into the student learning. Do you think this is a good thing or a threat or an opportunity?
That's actually a really interesting question. I feel that AI is there and it's inevitable. And it's sort of always existed, but not to the level that we've seen nowadays, and not as accessible as well. But what I will say, it is useful. So long as it's not a relied upon tool.
Okay.
So it's something that I feel like personally as a teacher, that you can't replace the education, the teaching, the mentorship side and the human side of the learning experience. However, with those tools with AI, it gives you a new perspective on how you write your sentences using different words. Maybe it's a good addition rather than a reliance, I feel.
Right. But I do hear a lot from parents, being myself a mom, that I don't want ChatGPT for my kids because they're making them lazy. It's a replacement kind of for their thing. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, I always encourage my students to use it in moderation. Like with everything in life, isn't it? It's in moderation. So in many ways, we try and move away from the computers and still focus on the fundamental skills, the handwriting, the spelling, and all those remembering your times tables, all those elements, it's still there. We've got the charts. But we do say there are times where it is appropriate to use. And it's up to us to help them understand when that might be and for them to be able to use it effectively as well.
Amazing. Here you've got it, guys, from a teacher. Use it in moderation. Kieren, if you don't mind me tackling the homework club.
Yeah.
So you do some homework club.
Yeah.
Where, how, when, how does it work, and how is it helpful for both students and their families?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, funnily enough, and as you've seen, we've just moved into a brand new office.
Yes,
and
let's
there's more
talk about
space.
that.
Yeah, there's more space now. So we're excited to relaunch that homework club again, where really we just have our tutors there to help provide that guidance. Sometimes, especially, and I can acknowledge that parents are busier than they ever were. And so a lot of them are working and they can't provide that support that they can at home that they want to, for instance. So we have that space for them to say, you know what, provide the help where we can, and you know, we can enjoy the quality time with our kids later on.
Amazing, yes.
Yeah.
Look, I know I'm going off script a little
course,
bit, but
yeah.
these are maybe some questions that our listeners
Yeah.
would like to hear. Do you really help them do the homework, or do you do the homework for them so it gets out of the way?
Oh, absolutely. No, there are no shortcuts with us.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, definitely. No, we try and provide the support of how to get there, but it's really up to the student to be able to do that, show us what they need to do, and then we get it done on the day.
Amazing. So it's in the end still the child's
Absolutely.
work that's happening there. You also run school holiday programs. So how do you really balance the skill building with the confidence building in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's what's good is learning is continuous, and that's what, whether the students understand that themselves, being so young, they are aware and open to that sort of environment where learning isn't just for the 10 weeks of the school
Yes.
term. So it's all about continuous building, skills, fundamentals, all of those kind of aspects, but also to make it fun. I think it's really important as well that they feel engaged, they
Yeah.
like the tutor, they like the environment, and that when they are learning, it is fun.
Amazing. And not just hit us with, oh, Mom, it's not homework time now. Just don't ask me
right.
these questions.
Yes,
They
exactly.
always do that, don't they?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask a little bit about the programs you do when you work with neurodiverse students,
Yeah.
and yourselves as well work with NDIS participants.
Yeah.
So what evidence-based strategies have been out there that you thought are most effective in supporting these children?
Yeah. In my experience, I've found there's two E words that I feel really stand out, and that's experience and environment. So, for instance, I've got a student coming in this afternoon who really thrives when the environment is quiet and the experience is independent, because
Wow.
that's the type of learner he is. He doesn't need someone to hold his hand and guide him through every element. He prefers independent thinking.
Nice.
Whereas there's other students who might want that extra bit of help, certain questions to prompt inquiry,
Initiate
thinking,
the
and
thinking.
initiate the learning. So the two things of environment and experience I found are really important, and they're not necessarily things in the curriculum that they tell you need to do.
That's true.
It's just, for me, I'm fortunate to say that my experience as a teacher guides me to share
True.
that, and same with my tutors as well. So that's something that we try and implement.
That is lovely. I think every child deserves this, not just NDIS participants.
Yeah.
But especially with the neurodivergent students, how does tutoring really help improve their planning,
Yeah.
their time management, and the task initiation? Because I think these were the main point of their cognitive side that needs support.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of students, for instance, who are very, very highly cognitive, very high order thinking,
Right.
but cannot frame and structure their ideas on the paper.
They just throw
for
them
instance.
everywhere.
They throw them everywhere. So what we try and do is hone in on that. So we let them thrive. Come on, tell me what your information is. We want to hear your thoughts on things, but then now let's put it in a structure
Right.
that works. Because ultimately, and I will admit, with the school and the HSC, it's all about certain structures.
Yes.
You got to fit a certain performer.
Yes.
So we try and work within those parameters to make sure that those students can achieve their best, not to limit them,
Right.
but also to allow them to thrive within those barriers. Yeah.
I'm not trying to become a tutor, but maybe to make it closer to our listeners.
Yeah.
So would these strategies be more visual to those kids or more structural? If I can give an example of, okay, if you want to do your essay, let's put it in a sandwich.
Yeah.
You do the beginning, the end, things like that. Or
Yeah.
does it go in a different way? How does it work?
I'll give you one example.
Right.
One thing I'm really big on is color coding. So the visual element with the structural of working with tables. So what ends up looking is I'll have, for instance, red means stop and think. And stop and think might be, all right, what is your sentence? How do you want to start this? And then blue for background. So what's the background information that you need to know? And what we tend to do is it's not only the starting point for their writing, but it's also reflection. So often they write something, and I say, okay, let's highlight now. Do you have your red? Do you have your blue, green, gold? Is it there? And then they can look at it and be like, oh, I haven't written a lot for blue. Okay, let's write some more.
Oh, wow.
So it's those elements that, and that's not for neurodivergent students. Every
to anyone,
student's so
I'd love
useful.
to learn that way.
That's right. Or often I would say that I teach in accordance to how I wish I learned sometimes.
Yes, amazing.
So that's something that I found useful for a lot of our students. So those kind of elements of the visual and some of the structural, they all just interlink, and we found it being so useful.
Lovely. Kieren, yourself being part of this community, raised, studied, and living in this community, community-centered learning is something big for you.
Yeah.
So you've built a mentoring model by hiring education students as tutors. And by the way, guys, they are amazing fellas out there. I should admit. What has brought you to learning environment? How did this, shape it?
Definitely. I'll be very cliched. I remember a little side story is when we started the business, my wife and I were in a little room and workshopping what this business could look like.
Yes.
And I said this open line of I wanted to be the McDonald's of education.
Oh, lovely.
In the way of not being like a global superpower, but just more so when I was young and they said, oh, you worked at McDonald's, that's really good. Here's another opportunity for you later on.
Yes.
That's how I saw it. So I thought, what if I could create an environment where I can hire future educators to be able to practice what they're learning in university.
Amazing.
And then have that experience where like, oh, did you work with in focused learning? Oh, yeah, I know you got some guidance there. We know that you'll suit our environment then for later on. So that's something really important. I'm proud to say 2 of our tutors came through as students themselves.
Yes.
Which is awesome. And then they've now sought out a career in education. And so we wanted to give them also that platform.
What an amazing way to build the community, if I can say. And how do you work with schools and families in the area to ensure that learning is personalised and is effective?
Yeah, well, look, admittedly, there are a lot of schools in the area, so there's a lot to keep up with, with different curriculums and styles of teaching. But I think the first point, and it was one of the 5 C's that we also preach outside within the business model itself, is communication. I think open communication is so important. So we try and get all the parents and even the students to share with us, what are they doing at school? How is it being taught? I think something that I have in my own personal value is important as tutoring companies need to work with the schools. We're not working against one's not better than the other.
Yes.
We need to work with the schools because both the school and the company are trying to enrich the student. So that's, I think, really important to make sure that we understand what they're doing and how they're doing it, and we can try and complement that.
But what if the parents, for any reason, whether educationally not up to level or maybe language barrier, if they cannot communicate with you directly, would you bring the approach to speak to the school straight away?
Yeah, sometimes we've reached out to schools and try and find out what it is they're doing. So we'll send an email to the teacher directly or just contact the school some way. We're quite fortunate so far that, whether the student or the parent has been able to share through emails, because the schools will correspond, what they're doing for the term, and then the parent will just forward that off to us. So we're very fortunate with that. But if need be, we're happy to reach out because we want to make sure that we're giving value.
That's great. And my next question is actually describing itself. You often say we see students as more than just a score, right? A test score. And we're seeing this in our interview today. But what does this philosophy mean to the culture at In Focus?
Yeah, I think, and this comes from working in the school that I work in, where, getting Band 6 is a great addition, but you want to see growth. So something that I've sort of adorned in my own mind is, grades matter, but growth matters too. And so, yes, we can see, are they more confident now? Are they able to write without needing that extra bit of help, for instance, an extra bit of prompting? Are they growing? If they are at, say, a certain level, let's say, for instance, if I use HSC English, Band 2, you're looking at maybe like a 50%. But if they've grown to a band 4 and that's about 70%, wow, that's growth.
Amazing.
Yeah, just because they're not at the top doesn't mean they haven't grown. So I think we've tried to cultivate a different mindset of growth is growth.
Right.
And there's the sky's the limit, I suppose. You can always keep going, can't
of
you?
course.
There's always more.
And since you're seeing the improvement, it means it's working, means continuation.
Yeah.
We'll bring it up.
That's right.
Amazing. I love that. I want to talk a little bit behind the scenes.
Yes.
A lot is happening behind the scenes.
That's right.
Right. You're running a business.
Yep.
You are a teacher.
Yep.
You work. You are studying educational leadership.
Yeah.
Of course, you do the homework club.
Yeah.
You do the holiday programs. Okay, and a little secret that I'll tell you after that, which is nice. But I want to know, how do you juggle it all? How do you do all of this?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but we always try, don't we? But no, look, I think what it comes from is just the passion that I have. I think that I've got the expertise and the passion in education. I love what I do as a teacher.
Amazing.
So that makes it a lot easier for me to go to work and show up and do what I need to do for my students. But then with the tutoring industry, I mean, I started this because I noticed that the industry itself, there's a lot of businesses that don't maybe have that education background, which is fine, but maybe my own value is that maybe it should, because I went to university, I studied it, and I can then practice it with those students. So that's something that drives me as well, is having that value in my education business. I come from that background, and this is what I can implement within this sector as well. So all of those things, I think, drive my passion, drive my energy, to push through. And I guess with the studies, look, I'm doing a Masters of Education Leadership. I'm 2 subjects away from finishing. I can see the finish line now.
A lot of coffee and chocolate needs to
absolutely. That's right. But we're almost there, so it's good.
That is amazing. Look, I can say something on a personal level where In Focus did show a lot of tutoring strategies, like we said, not only because a lot of people nowadays, they just want to go to the ORC classes, they want to do the selective schools, and they want to have extra on their curriculum.
That's right.
But what about those students that are struggling to go there, have the gaps? Who's going to help them? So we thank you and your business for that. The other secret that I wanted to say was that Kieren has a TikTok series on top of everything you do. Come run a tutoring business with me. That's what it's called. Amazing. And it's giving people an authentic behind-the-scenes look about teaching and tutoring. Why did you decide to have the customers, if you want, or of the community with you in the behind-the-scenes?
Yeah, I think it's really important to see what's going on. I think, in this day and age, information is so important now, and I think with TikTok and Instagram, you're able to reach more people, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So by letting people see what's going on behind a business, a little bit of us and our character and our personalities, you get a better feel for what our business is about. And I think that was really important. So maybe some of the realities of teaching, for instance, and create a little bit of
the
a
new
committee
studio.
side.
The new office. How did it go?
How did it go? And I've still yet to release, me lying on the floor trying to drill the tables because it was getting late.
Seeing the handyman behind here.
That's right. But they're all important because these are all experiences I'm sure a lot of people also go through themselves, whether it be their own business or at home with families. And I think that's important to share that yes, we're a tutoring business. Yes, we're teachers, but we're humans too. And I think that's a really important thing to connect with.
Lovely. I love it. Now, about your studies, if I want to tackle that a little bit, because you said you're doing educational leadership. How have your leadership studies influenced how you manage your own team in Focus?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because for me, growing up, I was never considered someone as a leader. So when for instance, I played soccer, I wasn't considered someone who'd be the captain. I was decent enough to be on the field, but not someone who would lead. So it was something that I fell into over time, that I discovered that there were other attributes. Leadership isn't just being loud or being confident. It's other aspects. And the boss, exactly. And through school, with opportunities to coordinate roles and hopefully future head teacher roles, who knows, what the future will bring. But the studies will allow me to understand the mechanics and the philosophy behind some of the different leadership styles. And through the business, I've been able to try a few different things, see what works, implement them in certain structures. And to be honest, you're always learning. you're always finding
True.
new ways to do things. So
True.
I don't see it as, all right, I've learned everything now, I'm good, because every day is new. Every challenge
And that's
is new.
in every industry, in my opinion,
Exactly.
not just in teaching.
Yeah.
Amazing. How are you evolving your programs, though, in Focus to align with the national education priorities,
Yeah.
like maybe equity and studying, well-being? Like, there's a lot happening and maybe a lot of things change. How does it work?
Yeah, well, the world is changing, isn't it?
It is,
So
it is.
quickly. And I think what's important is there's two elements. I suppose the curriculum is changing. I mean, for instance, next year there's brand new curriculums for English, for particularly the senior
wow.
unit. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes. And I think that's why, as a sort of a side note, being a teacher allows me to be involved in that in a school level, that I can bring it to the education business that I've got. So that's been really important. But I think as well, there's more complexity surrounding the environment. And the kids are growing up in a different generation and
True.
different things that both you and I would have grown up with. So I think there's that element of different learning. I mean, with AI, as you mentioned
Yes.
before, there's that technology is really developing.
Right.
So it's really trying to keep up with all these different elements, with the syllabus changing, making sure that we open communication to understand what the parents need
True.
from us as well, but also make sure that it aligns with their learning, but then also keep on top of the developing communications,
There you
developing
go.
technologies, and also developing needs of the students nowadays.
Of course. Well, in my times, I've never seen my teacher on TikTok. So
No,
there was no
that's-
TikTok even in my time. Let me say that. But that's amazing. I mean, different approaches, how the student can grasp information without feeling, oh my God, I'm going to go speak to my teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it. But in terms of curriculum changes, Kieren, where there are updates and shifts, for example, HSC frameworks, or like you mentioned, the different curriculum in maths and English. Do you think this is helping you because you're a teacher, or do you think you need, there is somewhere you need to go and learn more in order to keep in focus up to date?
Yeah, both. I think I'm very, very fortunate that I am, a teacher where I'm exposed to a lot of the different changes. But those changes are happening within my own context, within my own school. And there's so many different contexts and schools. So that's something that, for me, it challenges myself as a teacher and as a tutor to keep on top of what other schools are doing. There's so many different texts, for instance, as an English teacher.
Yes.
I know certain types of texts, but there's so much literature out there that is unknown to me, really. But it's just as valuable. And sometimes schools will pick those pieces of text and want to study that. So it challenges me to be able to learn, do my research about them. Sometimes there's courses that we can sign up for, which is really good. So that's something that I'm fortunate enough to do. I get the emails about, so I try and expose myself to those development courses and learn from other people who have taught the text that, I haven't been exposed to, for instance.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We are getting close to the end of our discussion today, unfortunately, although there's a lot to talk about. But what's your long-term vision for education? Is there something that you wish to do and you still didn't do through your teaching, learning, or in focus?
Yeah. I think my first goal for this is make sure there's stability in the company. Like that's my first thing. And I think we're seeing that and the fruits of that come through. But I see myself in education. I don't really see myself veering off into any other sort of profession. But that said, who knows
God
what life will throw at you, right?
If you know my background, you don't know I'm sitting here today.
That's exactly right. I think that's why we bonded as well with, our experiences. But I think, look, I just feel so passionate about what we do that if you ask me right now, I can confidently say that I still want to see In Focus grow. I want to help as many students as we possibly can, working in a low socioeconomic school. I want to be able to build avenues so that it's not just the people with more opportunity that get access to education and more education. I want to look for pathways now to be able to invite and be more inclusive.
Amazing. We can't wait to see you getting there, hopefully. Kieren, where can our people or listeners find you, and how can they get a help if there's any?
Well, first start off with our website at infocuslearning.com.au. That's where you can find us as a contact form. All the information is there as well. But you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok through the handles. I'm sure you
we
put the
have
handles
them all.
there.
We'll tag them all.
It's easier for that. But you can always reach out there, and I try and put as much content as I can up there and find out a little bit more about us. So, yeah.
Amazing. Kieren, thank you so much for your honesty, your leadership, and your vision. It is clear that what you've built is not only about the child to get more scoring, it's about creating a future where the student is seen, supported, and hopefully thriving. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And guys, before we go to our listeners, I'd like to say, remember, education isn't just about passing tests. It's about unlocking possibility, nurturing curiosity, and building confidence. One student, one session, and one safe space at a time. This was Scientifically Speaking with Christine on Oz Arab Media. Until next time.